Every morning at 7 a.m., George Lawson, a 69-year-old widower with neatly trimmed white hair, deep brown eyes, he carried himself with dignity. Since his wife passed away 5 years earlier, routine had become his closest companion. That particular morning, as autumn leaves drifted across the pathway, a woman sat down at the far end of his bench without asking. She kept a respectful distance. Her name, he would soon learn, was Clara Bennett, 62 years old. Their first conversation was simple, about the weather, about the geese near the pond. But Clara had a voice that was steady and reassuring, the kind that made silence feel comfortable instead of lonely. Within weeks, George found himself looking forward to those morning meetings. Not everyone shared his quiet happiness. George's son, Michael Lawson, 44 years old, tall with sharp features, noticed the change in his father almost immediately. Michael was successful, decisive, and fiercely protective of the family name. His younger sister, Emily Lawson, 40 years old, was more subtle in her concerns, but she shared her brother's suspicion. She appeared out of nowhere, Michael said one evening during dinner at George's house. Older women don't just randomly befriend wealthy widowers in parks. His tone was controlled but accusatory. George's expression remained calm. Her name is Clara, he replied gently, and she hasn't asked me for anything. But doubt had already been planted in the room like a seed waiting to grow. The following week, Michael did something George never expected. He hired a private investigator. Within days, a report landed on his desk, thin but unsettling. Clara Bennett had once been married to a man who died under unclear medical circumstances. When Michael confronted his father with the report, George felt a flicker of irritation. Unclear doesn't mean suspicious, he said firmly, but even he could not ignore the strange wording. That same evening, as George walked Clara to her car after dinner, he noticed something unusual: a black sedan parked across the street with its headlights off. The engine was running, and for the first time since meeting Clara, a quiet sense of danger crept into his peaceful routine. George pretended not to notice the black sedan, but Clara did. Her gray eyes shifted briefly toward it, and for a fraction of a second, her calm expression tightened. "You should go inside," she said softly. "Lock your door tonight." George frowned. "Do you know who that is?" he asked. Clara hesitated just long enough to deepen his concern. "I'm not sure," she replied carefully, "but I've seen that car before." The next morning, Michael arrived unannounced at George's house. His posture was tense, jaw clenched. "Dad, that car is registered to a private security contractor," he said. "And guess who used to hire that firm?" Document across the table. The name on it was Clara Bennett's late husband. George felt frustration rise in his chest. "You're twisting coincidences into accusations," he said firmly. But even as he spoke, he remembered Clara's uneasy glance at the sedan. That afternoon, George met Clara at Riverside Park as usual. She was already seated on the bench, hands folded tightly over her handbag, something she had never done before. The autumn wind brushed her silver blonde hair across her face. "There's something I didn't tell you," Clara began quietly. She explained that her late husband, Richard Bennett, had once been involved in a legal dispute over corporate fraud. Shortly before his death, he had agreed to testify against powerful partners. After he passed, Clara continued, her voice steady but lower than usual, "Some people believed he left behind evidence. They thought I had it. George, I don't." George absorbed her words slowly. "Watching you again?" he asked. Clara nodded faintly. "When I started spending time with you, I think they assumed I was passing something to you." That evening, as George returned home, he noticed his front door slightly ajar. His heart pounded. He was certain he had locked it before leaving. Inside, nothing appeared stolen, but on his living room table sat a single sheet of paper he had never seen before. Typed in bold letters were 5 chilling words: "Stay away from Clara Bennett." George stood frozen in the middle of his living room, the paper trembling slightly in his steady but aging hands. The message was clear. This was no misunderstanding, no coincidence. Someone had entered his home quietly, deliberately, just to deliver a warning. Within minutes, Michael and Emily were at the house. Michael paced near the fireplace, anger flashing in his sharp hazel eyes. "This is exactly what I was afraid of," he said. "She brought danger into your life." Emily, calmer but visibly shaken, examined the doorframe for signs of forced entry. "There's no damage," Emily murmured. "Or knew how to get in without breaking anything." The realization made the room feel smaller. George looked at his children carefully. He asked quietly. Michael didn't hesitate. "Every sign points to her." But George noticed something else. Neither of them seemed surprised, only defensive. The next morning, George received a call from Clara. Her voice, usually composed, sounded urgent. "Today," she said, "and don't answer unknown calls." Before he could ask more, the line disconnected. That afternoon, Michael insisted on driving his father to his doctor's appointment. As they approached an intersection, a delivery truck sped through a red light, heading straight toward George's side of the car. Before the impact, another vehicle, a dark sedan, swerved sharply and collided with the truck. diverting it just enough to prevent a direct hit. Metal crumpled, glass shattered. Avoiding serious harm, shaken but alive, George stepped out of the car. From the damaged dark sedan emerged Clara, her navy coat torn at the sleeve, her silver blonde hair slightly disheveled but her gray eyes steady. She had been following them. "You," she said breathlessly. It didn't slow at the light. Paramedics rushed past them. Michael stood speechless, staring at the woman he had accused for weeks. She had placed herself in danger without hesitation. Later, investigators confirmed the truck driver had been paid to stage a minor accident. The same security contractor connected to Clara's late husband was under scrutiny. As George sat in the hospital waiting area, holding Clara's hand, he looked at his children. "The woman you hated," he said softly, "just saved my life." And for the first time, Michael and Emily saw her not as a threat, but as the reason their father was still breathing.